Greetings, I am Liz and I use she, her.
And I am Scandal and I use they, them.
And let's play a game together!
Yeah!
Welcome back to our special run through of Meeting in the
Flesh! Which is going to be a lead up to Motya's Awakening.
To the release of the demo for Motya Awakening, which
Yes.
we're really excited about.
Yes. My next delivery is a few blocks away, but I can cut a path through the park. The ground's a little wetter here. This dirt's solid beneath my feet instead of kicking up in little puffs. My claws dig small grooves with each step, no doubt leaving a little line of tick marks to signal where I've been. They'll probably be trampled flat during the day, only to repeat the next day.
Honestly, that sounds really cute, the whole paw prints thing with the little, claws on the end. As someone who has done some very light hobby tracking, it's really fun to see that on prints.
I also love the concept that, honestly, I've watched my own steps sometimes, and it makes sense, so you would have somebody who would keep track of their own, and it's not like, oh, this is an alien thing I'm keeping track of. It's like you're just kind of watching your feet in the snow or whatever surface you're wandering over.
Additionally, noticing the difference in the ground is really nice. It's something that I care about as well, and it's one of those things of going, hey, in this moment, the ground is really dusty, and now it's not.
Exactly. The paths in the park are flanked by trees, their gnarled branches reaching haphazardly up and outwards as if they're also looking forward to the eclipse. Small insects lay nestled in the bark, their wings shimmering like water droplets each time they flit around. A few of them chitter at each other, set to the backdrop of crows shouting. Somewhere further away, there's a quiet drone of some sort of factory, belching long streamers of smoke.
Blah.
It's nice here. The atmosphere is great. I really like getting to cut through the park.
Honestly, I have always enjoyed nature shortcuts as well. They're just very calming, and they really are really good for resetting the brain.
Very fulfilling.
Just really good for moving into a different mental space.
I'm so distracted that I don't hear the sound of footsteps approaching. Rapidly.
Val!
A boisterous pillar of fur and energy comes bursting out of the foliage directly to my right. I almost jumped 2 feet in the air. As it is, I probably skipped to a halt and hit my face.
I rolls gently to a stop. Oh no, the salt.
I know, exactly. Oh God.
Hey, Phil.
Breton stinks of sweat and dirt. His fur's matted, darkened spots plastered out in strange directions from dried fluids. And there's a glob of something fleshy stuck to his jaw.
I've been really busy.
Hey, Breton! Been out all night?
Yeah.
Just as I suspected.
We were exploring out westward since we smelled a lot of salt. Haven't found anything yet, though.
I'm sure you'll find it soon. You guys are really good at your jobs. Breton beams at me, tail wagging side to side and knocking around some innocent sapling's branches.
I love the description of how happy he is and how much physicality there is in his expressions, and that Vil notices it. And it's something that Vil seems to care about. There's this thing where sometimes people have their characters describe things just intermittently, but this is something like Vil seems to really care about body language and describes it frequently, and I like that.
And it seems to be a Vil thing. It's not just a,
Game
we're trying to tell you stuff and I have to use the character to do so. Because more of these, so I have to explain, a lot of these games, even when they do third person, basically, there's a lot of basically first person narrative where I feel like a lot of people, I don't actually like basically first person unlimited, I think is what it's called, where you do get basically everyone's sort of information. You have not only the focus is here's your main character, but they just randomly tell you stuff about everybody else, and it's really weird sometimes.
It's nice to stay solidly in someone's head and feel like they really have their own core personality,
right?
Rather than they're just being a vehicle for the author to share stuff.
Which is actually one of the things, one of the reasons why I really liked the Hunger Games was because it was very much just from Katniss's perspective. That's it. You didn't get any other information except what she heard, what she thought, and how she felt about things. And it really was through her perspective, and it was really nice. Breton works as a salt scout. Salt scouts search the flesh fields outside of the city in search of raw salt pools. These pools are where we harvest the raw salt for processing of the plant, then distributing out to the people. An important job, in other words. Salt scouts depend on their sense of smell or sensitivity to changes in the air to seek out the signature sting of salt. So apparently, many of them don't mind working during the night when visibility is poor. It's not unusual to see a salt scout heading home in the morning, dirty from a long night of exploring.
Anyway.
Oh, I am now ripped out of my reverie with myself.
Yes.
Even after a night of what must have been exhausting work, Breton talks at a boisterous growl.
Ha! I thought I smelled you with salts, so I figured I'd catch you now. If I pick up my salt from you here, it'll make your route a little easier, right?
A smile tugs at my face. Breton looks terribly proud of his innovative thought.
If you give me my food, you don't have to carry it all the way to where my house is.
All right?
It's really cute.
It is actually really thoughtful. I think in this case, let's see.
Say it helps a lot. Say it's a good thing you didn't miss each other. Say you wouldn't want Breton to wear himself out. Oh, I don't think we would say that one. I think pretty confident.
I think you're pretty confident, yeah, in how powerful Breton is. I'm trying to decide if it's a good thing you guys didn't miss each other, though. Like, great thought. What if we'd missed each other?
What if you'd kept looking for me if we hadn't been here? On the other
but
hand,
also that feels like it's still kind of putting him down.
He didn't do it by timing. He did it by smelling you out.
Uh-huh.
So I would think helping a lot would be good.
Yeah, so it helps a lot, because that wouldn't... Yeah, there's no way I can squelch this sort of enthusiasm. Also, as my friend points out, he can smell you. He's really good at his job.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and he even said, I tracked you down by the smell of salt. Not, I knew you would be here.
But what if you would miss me? He's like, I smelled you. I literally just told you. Wait, what?
Yes. It's like saying, I saw you walking through the park, so I came running over. Someone going, well, what if we'd missed each other? What?
What?
No. Yeah, so that bit to me is really like, if you're listening to what he said, then you're only going to have the one answer for the most part.
Yeah. Thanks. It helps a lot. Not really. My route takes me past Breton's house anyway, but I won't tell him that.
Of course it takes you past his house. He's on your route.
I know. I was going to say that too. I was going like, Vil, that's what a route is.
But the idea is, I think this is kind of cute, of Vil going like, it doesn't really help that much because you're not taking 20 packets of salt off me. But it is like, he is removing weight from you.
He is.
Uh-huh.
Breton gives a wide smile, showing off every single one of his sharp teeth.
Well polished, well brushed.
Beautiful.
No problem.
I actually really am amused how many people in this particular game have what we would
gorgeous
consider to be
teeth.
Gorgeous teeth.
Lovely, well-kept, healthy teeth.
And that's not to say that monsters can't have them, but it is interesting how much like teeth horror plays into a lot of things and how people actually seem to really aggressively like try to make them nice looking.
They clearly have good dental hygienists here.
They do.
Like, it's in the monster world, they have good factories and good hygienists.
They do.
Dragonishi, if you're watching this, yes.
Yes. Clearly you have worked in this world.
Yes, it's been good. Good job.
It's awfully endearing.
He's adorable.
Well, let me check what your delivery for today is.
Just the usual for me.
He pipes up before I can double-check my note, so I nod as I shift the bundle on my shoulder to pull out his usual delivery. 2 packs of regular salt. Breton tends to eat a bit more than the average. Understandable, with how much he moves around.
By the way,
he sounds excited. I bet he's gonna talk about the eclipse.
Hi, guess what I've been hearing all day? Do you have any plans for the eclipse?
The swinging of his tail has grown ferocious, batting a branch aside with enough gusto to snap it in half.
I have met those dogs. That's beautiful. Just
not really? Everyone seems so excited for the eclipse, which I suppose is the normal reaction?
I do kind of enjoy that Vil really is like, yeah, there's a big thing happening, but it really doesn't concern me in that way. Like, sure, it's part of my community, but in the same way that some people are like, yeah, I don't really celebrate Christmas, I'm just gonna work that day, you know? It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, Boxing Day or whatever it is, just going, yeah, I don't really do anything for that. It's not like it's not important, it's just Haley's Comet. Okay, shrug.
Neat.
And Vil's very clear about that, just sort of being like, I'm pretty good in my routine.
They have very
I'm not
specific
worried about
priorities. Yeah. It's probably weirder that I'm more laid back about it, but that's just my nature. Besides, it makes me happy enough just seeing other people being so excited. Their feelings are infectious.
I actually have known people like that, where it really is just, I get excited when you get excited, but I don't really get super excited about a lot of things on my own. And it doesn't make me feel sad or like I'm missing out, and I don't need that other experience.
Oh, not at all.
But I'm just not as, basically, enthusiastic as you are on my own, ever.
Yeah.
Really? Come on, you should live a little.
Breton's enormous paw claps on my back, making me stumble forward a step. 1 or 2 salt packets spill from my bundle, but he catches them before they hit the ground.
Thank you. Oops. Sorry about that.
It's all right. I put those packets away and managed to extract 2 packets of regular salt in the process. Here you go. The usual for you.
Thanks, Bill.
For a moment, Breton sounds like he's about to add something, but stops himself.
That little face.
I love the little lip purse.
The little I'm considering real hard. It's pretty good.
I don't prod, just readjusting my bundle. Sure enough, he shifts his weight from one foot to the other for a few moments in a nervous fidget before speaking up again.
Hey, you really should consider doing something for the eclipse.
Oh, well, it's not that I'm against doing anything, but I guess I just don't have any plans.
So, you'd be up for doing something adventurous?
Breton blurts that out loudly enough to startle off a crow overhead, and I can't help being curious. Maybe?
Cool!
There's a pause before he hurries to add,
Not that I have anything planned or anything, I was just asking. But you never know what might come up, is what I'm saying.
I have to fight back a grin. Breton isn't good at being subtle. I guess you're right. Knowing Breton, maybe he'll teach me about some hidden location to view the eclipse from. He knows this area like the back of his hand, thanks to his job. This shortcut through the park is also something he taught me about. So I'd actually be pretty happy if he taught me something about a strange new location to visit during the eclipse. It might be a nice change of pace.
Anyway, I'll let you get back to your job.
Breton's stifling a yawn as he says that. Even his endless energy must be running low after working all night. Sure, you should go get some rest.
Will do!
There's no warning before Breton leans in to lick my face.
Them.
His tongue dragging all the way up from my chin to my brow and leaving a sticky trail of drool in its wake. A very moist sign of affection.
The moistest. Do good on your job, and I'll see you tomorrow.
And with that, Breton's on his way.
I also think it's very charming that Bill's just like, I'm just describing this.
Uh-huh.
It's not a problem in any way. It's not distasteful in any way. It's just there it is. The damp affection.
I wave as Breton makes his loud exit, crashing his way through some defenseless bushes and leaving a trail of trampled ground in his wake.
The park rangers hate him.
They do. But also the people who like trailblazing love him.
Love him.
Depending on what they're there
love
for.
him.
The hikers love him. The bird watchers despise him.
Yes.
He waves back as he turns a corner around a prickly bush up ahead, then vanishes from view.
Poof.
It's only then that I raise my hand to my face, considering wiping away the damp tracks lingering on my face. I should probably lingering there, not my face again, but
Yeah, it's just, I raise a damp hand to my face, considering wiping away the tracks lingering there.
Yeah.
And that's one of those writing things where when you're thinking the word face, you write it in a lot. And if you go back and edit, you can change it. But yeah, repeats of the same word happen a lot when you're just going through like first drafts. And it is something that creates more diversity in the writing to remove it, to use synonyms or just drop them when not needed.
Yeah. I end up just leaving it be. It's not a big deal after all. And my face gets chapped from running against the wind all day. The sheen of spit soothes the raw skin a little bit. So after one last check of my bundle to make sure it's secure, I turn my attention back to the path through the park.
I love how, as an aside, Vil continues to describe their physical experience, and that while they're very, very diligent about their job and their routine, they don't seem to take very good physical care of themselves.
Yeah, in some
like
ways.
only doing the necessities. You know, sort of like, I have to pick the pus off my face to be able to open my eye kind of thing.
Which is also interesting, because at the same time I'd be like, necessity would dictate you should take care of yourself because it will actually interfere with your job.
But on the other hand, a lot of people who tend to be generally healthy, like myself, don't really think about that and are more reckless because it hasn't inhibited them yet.
Yes. Time to get back to work.
Nyum.
Here you go.
Thanks, Phil. You're always right on time. I really appreciate it. It's nice to get my sound directly from you instead of my box, you know.
Still really nice teeth. Like, really disorganized, but very clean. Very healthy looking.
I understand. I'm glad I could get it to you, too.
You're such a good kid. You take care, alright?
I love those fingers.
Me too.
They're amazing.
Long fingers. Will do, sir.
I also love how in this case, that person being a monster, Rilan, it doesn't matter that it's split up between the knuckles and the fingers are longer than your standard fingers, but I've also seen it on anime people sometimes. It is really uncomfortable.
The route grows easier towards the end of the day as my bundle grows even lighter. I have to stop to tie it tighter over my shoulder, making sure the excess fabric doesn't billow and flap around too much as I run.
Creating a sail that pulls me back.
The deliveries go smoothly. Everyone seems to be in a pretty good mood, and one client gives me a cup of water to keep me going. Though I don't need the water, it's still a nice energy boost, and I thank her for it before continuing on my way.
I feel like that one is one of those indications of self-care, though, going, I don't need water. It's still good. And going, but you could use the water. And the description of need is something that I'm familiar with using, of going, I don't need a drink right now. You could still get one and it would be good for you, though. You know? Anyway.
One block has 5 houses in a row that need deliveries. One house is occupied, and I get to hand the salt to my client directly, but the other 4 are empty, so I leave the salt in their boxes. Maybe they're off at work, or maybe they're making preparations for the eclipse. Hopefully I can say hi to them tomorrow, at least.
I'm suddenly just having this moment of going, if you were writing a character in this world and they were casually doing exposition as well, it'd be like, I walk up, the fleshy steps to my house. I check the salt box on the way in. The delivery is already there.
Yeah, right?
I just was like going, and then you have this sort of contrasting other side of the story.
Right. That block done, I trot to the end of the street to the corner, but the sound of screaming catches my attention.
Shriek.
Looking up, I catch the sight of a small crowd a few blocks down. It takes me a moment of squinting to realize what it is. A punishment salt bath.
This scene always makes me vaguely uncomfortable.
It does, but it also makes sense in the
It's also
world.
Fascinating.
Yes. I'm not saying I particularly like it, though, either. So, obviously, this is a little bit graphic, so our apologies. This game is intended for mature, but they have given proper warning, so if you're here this far, we're going to also show you the rest of this as well.
Here we go.
So, this is obviously the bath. And then here's...
I do enjoy how your law enforcement people are dressed like policemen.
Yeah, they really are.
They really solidly are.
I just always like, oh.
Also, this brings round the circle of the punishment salt used in the factory, so you know what it is.
And you go, oh. There's a giant metal tub placed on the ground, flanked on either side by an overlook officer. And inside the tub, salt. And a person. A criminal. Each overlook officer is holding a capture pole with wires at the end strung taut around the criminal's limbs, keeping them firmly in the salt bath. Even from this distance, I can make out patches of raw, wet flesh, areas where the criminal's skin has been flayed off to expose them to the salt.
It's a rough punishment, to be honest.
Yeah. No doubt the salt in the bath is starting to stain red and clump together from the blood and fluids. My mouth waters just a little from the thought. These punishment salt baths serve a dual function. On one hand, this is a pretty good punishment. Though larger crimes earn harsher punishments, first-time offenders are usually only given a salt bath. The pain of having raw flesh exposed to the salt is usually enough of a deterrent to keep people from repeating their mistakes in the future.
Oof. Also, though, I really appreciate that Vil describing this here, and you get a really clear sense of sort of what the law enforcement structure is here, but also that Vil doesn't have a reaction of almost anything to the person that is the criminal. Only to, I get a food response to the smell of blood and salt, which is very interesting.
Yes. I will say, moralistically, I don't really agree with this, because my belief is also going, why did the person do this at all? Like, why did this individual end up in this situation? Like, what happened? How could this have been prevented?
I do enjoy that, and a very slight spoiler, that if you do take Yeastel's route, there's more discussions of what his desires are for the law moving forward, and that he's not really for the violence either, and would like very much to do preventative and troubleshooting measures more than this.
Yeah, it's really nice. If you haven't done Yeastel's route, it's really enjoyable.
There's some really great things in there. A couple of people have been put off by some of the warnings you've read that happen in that route. But we didn't find them to be a problem at all. I thought everything was handled very sensitively and very nice.
It was very thoughtful, and like we said, this is... even though I don't... Like, horror is a very broad category and means fairly specific things. Like, comfy horror still works really well for
Yeah, this is basically a comfy horror. Alright.
Keep people from repeating their mistakes in the future. And on the other hand, the salt used in these punishments is a bit of a delicacy. Though not as prized as honey or mercury salt, punishment salt has a savory tang to it that almost everyone enjoys. Just enough blood gets mixed into the salt to give it a unique flavor and take off some of the harsh edge to the original salt taste. I'll probably be seeing a bunch of punishment salt to be delivered tomorrow. Maybe I'll claim a package or two for myself. Everyone's talking about the eclipse, after all. Maybe I can treat myself.
I also find the very soft cannibalism to be interesting as well.
It is!
Of going, we're not eating the whole person, but we are all going, yeah, you eat people's blood.
Whoever's immersed in the salt gives a gurgling scream. Sunlight glints bright off the salt tub. Stay to watch a little longer or get back to work.
I feel like in this case... while it really could go either way, because it's I'm just sort of mesmerized by the experience, Vil keeps mentioning time over and over again and trying to be efficient about it. I think Vil would probably just keep moving.
And I do actually really like how in most cases, so with this particular writer, we've even mentioned this before, is just a lot of the choices feel fairly natural. They don't feel like you're really, like we were like, I really read that dialogue up there and then... Why is this choice here?
Yeah.
Where we've had weird responses to other choices in other games?
I say it's really nice to have a writer that basically you can understand mentally and feel in sync with. Because all in here the choices always feel like something I can pick between that makes sense for what I've learned so far. And yeah, as my friend has mentioned, there's sometimes where we'll read a scene in other games and then suddenly the choices will be offered and we'll both stare at them and go, how did you come up with the idea of either of these choices?
Yeah.
Because it's not what neither of us would think of at all.
Get back to work. As interesting as this is, I think it would be best to get back to work. I turn my attention back to the streets ahead. The officers are grunting something at the criminal, but I ignore it. Even if the smell of blood and salt in the air is tantalizing, I take 1, 2, 3 quick steps and launch into a steady trot. I'm still on the job, so I shouldn't lose my focus.
There we are.
I've managed to drag my thoughts away from that salt bath by the time I reach the end of the block. I'm at the tail end of my route, and with almost nothing left in my bundle, each step feels light.
I also enjoy that Phil gets a sense of accomplishment from their job.
Me too. I drop 2 salt packages into a delivery box before rounding the corner. Immediately, there's a unique sweetness in the air. Without thinking, I raise my head to inhale deeply.
I'm also getting the solid experience that Phil's just going, it's near the end of the day, hungry. Because like it seems like this is a long work day based on the route, and it's like Vil going, I shove some breakfast in before I leave, and then you don't eat again, it seems, until you get home.
Right.
And so it's one of those things of going, you might have only run across the punishment bath because you were subconsciously doing food smell and walking towards it, and then you get the same thing here. And I think it's an interesting piece of thing to think about, again, in reference to how Vil lives their life.
Even if I'm deeply familiar with a smell, it's still enticing. One can't help but breathe in deeper inhales around this area, and there's always a few people loitering around.
Quite free smells.
Up ahead is the bee store.
I love the bee store.
Bee store!
Bees are my favorites. We have to appreciate the bees.
We will. The small bone chime above the door rattles as I enter.
Bees!
No! Go back! Don't read that. Okay.
Bees?
Bees?
Look at
I
these
love
fluffy
these
babies.
bees.
They are so good.
So I need to tell you, I'm sorry if you don't like insects, but these are actually like enormous bees. Like you can pick these up.
Like they're the size of house cats.
Yeah, or small dogs.
Or like small dogs, and they're very beautiful, soft, fluffy babies.
Or maybe even like medium-sized dogs.
They could even be, depending. I would say, but in comparison to the bodies of the people who interact with them, they're big, fluffy boys.
Big, huge boys. The cages before me buzz in response. The air inside the store is already dizzyingly sweet, but the heady scent intensifies for a moment, and I utterly lose my train of thought. Standing before the entrance, I just focus on taking in 1, 2, 3 deep breaths, each lungful making me feel more languid.
It's like a massage
for my nose.
It is like aromatherapy for my whole body. You're here, huh?
It's a gruff voice sounding from further inside the store that snaps me back to attention. Hey, Niark, I have your salt.
I am dazed by honey.
Woo! Niark stands between 2 tall rows of cages, making notes on a scrap of paper, probably taking notes on the condition of his bees.
So I'm just going to take a second to talk about Niark, because I think Niark's character design is amazing.
He is our favorite character.
and like his character design is very interesting, but also like ultimately he is our favorite love interest. Like out of the park. He's amazing. And as we do this run, we are going to do his route, and it's going to be wonderful.
Oh no, spoilers!
Sorry. I thought everyone knew. I was just saying, and it's going to be so good. So if there's anything about his appearance that doesn't make you go, yes, that is a romance option, I urge you to hold your reservations and see if you will
reserve your
judgments to enjoy this boy, because like, wow.
Yeah. As I make my way down the aisle, the cages around me buzz happily. Each cage contains a large, fat bee. Some are shy and turn away as I walk by, but others are more personable and bumble up to the front of the cage to poke their antenna through the bars and wiggle them at me.
I love the idea of bees bumbling. There's something very, very charming about it, but also very, very just entertaining about it. It's a bumblebee bumbling.
It's so cute. One cage contains a particularly fluffy bee that waggles its abdomen at me as I approach. I've helped bathe this one before, so it's familiar with me. I love the fact that Vil can identify them, because most people go, God, I cannot tell the difference between bees.
Again, I'm going to say what's really neat about the love interest in this game, and the fact that it is a dating game, is that Vil already knows all of them.
Yeah.
And has a rapport with every single one of them. Vil's talking here about, I've washed this bee before, is I have worked in this shop and been familiar with its keeper and the bees. Mm-hmm. And it's just, there's a lot there. In the same way that, like, meeting Breton a bit ago was, you two clearly know each other, you are comfortable with each other. Vil finds Breton very charming, and Breton is just enthusiastic as hell to see them.
And also, again, they're familiar enough where Breton can display I assume probably platonic for whatever type of monster he is, for I could lick you in the face.
Yes, a platonic, warm friendship kind of thing.
Yeah,
and like,
or it might be a queer platonic relationship. We have
where it's just where it's a bit more intimate. And the thing is also with Yeastel, where none of it feels like a sudden approach. It's like you guys have a very familiar, comfortable working relationship. And then there's just more connection.
Nice. It's so neatly integrated. Like, again, I don't feel like we're so much a stranger. Like, particularly being someone who, when we initially came to this story before, it's really nice to come here and go, oh, it's comfortable. I don't really have to worry about being, like, somebody trying to go out of their way to shock or surprise me, because I also know the character is a really good vehicle for me to basically explore the world.
There's also something neat that I think I'll mention as well, in contrast to other dating games, is the experience of there's not a lot of anxiety in here. There's not a lot of my heart pounding, I lose my breath, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Like all of your various tropes of having basically romantic anxiety.
Right. Where
I get anxious, but it's written as though it's me being either excited or turned on. This is very, very chill. And I love that feel. Again, it's comfortable, but it's also at ease.
And again, like, don't take any of our comments as being like we're shaming anybody enjoying like anxiety romance or whatever. Or there's nothing wrong with any of it. Like the big thing is it's fantasy. Like, and sometimes what you want is to have a good like ooh, God, the tension. You know, sometimes it's really fun. We're just talking about, like, what works for us and, like, why we also think it works. And also in regards to how its accessibility kind of thing.
And I was going to say, it's like, it's not that thing is better. It's just something that I like.
Exactly.
Because I get anxious enough.
Well, and the thing is that we have no way of being completely objective, so there's no way, we can't lie about this sort of thing. It's going, we enjoy this stuff, and you might not, and that's okay.
Yep. And
you don't have to.
Again, if we love Niarg and you do not fall in love with him, that's okay.
Yeah, it's alright. You're wrong, but it's alright. Okay.
Fluffy Bee.
When I pause to poke my fingers through the bars of its cage, it toddles closer and ducks its head so I can rub the area behind its head, right where the bristly fur starts to sprout. I pet it a few times, rubbing my fingers in short strokes, and it hums happily in response, flicking its wings. Honey dribbles from its mandibles, leaving damp yellow spots on the padding in the cage.
Oops.
Hey there, you're not supposed to be wasting honey like that.
It's just like so happy I blah
La la la.
drools in delight. Don't blame my bee for that. You're the one who made her drool.
Niarg must have finished taking his notes because he's made his way down the aisle towards me. The bulk of his body towers over me, leaning over to peer into the cage where the bee is rubbing at its mandibles with its frontmost legs.
I also love Niarg's very different expressions.
Uh-huh.
Like all the mouths, there's a lot of emotional expression
so
between them.
Yes.
It's very good.
I love this. It's so good. Like, there's so many mouths. There's just so much fun.
And all of them are part of like expressive emotes.
My girls have had hard these days. You shouldn't agitate them. But we're going to have to agitate them less in the next one! Hey! So, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. I have been Scandal. If you want to support us, please feel free to go check out our Ko-fi, our Patreon, and our Twitch. We have some links in the description down below. Please also feel free to like, comment, subscribe, interact with the video, please. It actually does a lot for us in regards to the YouTube algorithm. Please also feel free to go check out Hal and Miru's Twitters.
And InkEthic.
And InkEthic Studio specifically, so not just their own personal Twitters, but also them combined, the studio specifically. And we will see you in the next one.
Yep. And I have been Liz.
And it was great playing with you.
Bye!